What's going on YouTube? So the BMW lineup has seen a lot of action in recent years, especially with the brand's SUVs. And we've had the pleasure of living with their most important crossover, the X3, for the past week. So, after a week, does this prove that you should buy this over all the different competitors? Well, let's go ahead and find out. So to get things started here, let's begin under the hood with a quick spec dump. There's two different powertrains you can get with this next generation X3. We have the more powerful of the two. It's the M50 model, a 3-liter turbocharged inline 6-cylinder with a mild hybrid system making 393 horsepower. It's paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission, and with all-wheel drive, the combined fuel economy is rated at 27 mpg. Now, the base price of the X3 is $51,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, of course, this is a real-world 7-day review. We lived with this model, so we have quite a few impressions to share throughout our week. We'll get our official Kentucky sound level reading, and we're going to talk about things like our real-world fuel economy, as well as if we like it better, the same, or worse after living with it. But let's go ahead and close up the hood because we need to begin to go through the bold exterior before we move on to the interior. So of course, when it comes to the exterior of this model, it's a very big departure from the previous generation. BMW really brought down a lot of design characteristics from the flagship XM SUV. And because of that, everything's going to be a little bolder, a little blockier than before. Now, you continue to get several different versions of this design, depending on which trim you choose. As I mentioned, this is the M50 model, so this comes with the M Sport design elements. We also have the Shadow Line trim, so that's going to black everything out, even down here on our lower fascia and our large kidney grills. You might also notice there's illumination around the outside edges. This gives it a very distinct look at night. Moving over here to our headlights, you have standard full LED headlights on every single model. You've got a new daytime running light signature for the BMW brand on this model. We have the available cornering lamps as well. So this premium unit that we have is excellent. Definitely just fantastic at night. And if you want some more information about the headlights and the overall lighting of this vehicle, we are going to have an upcoming night review. And then as we walk around to the back, the unique design continues here as well. Yeah, this new X3 certainly has a bold look here in the rear. And as far as design touches, we have a spoiler right through here, a wiper. And let's check out the tail lights to see if all the elements are LED. As you can see, we have an LED brake light. We also have an LED turn signal indicator that, doubles as your brake light. And then your reverse light is integrated down here in the lower fascia. All of the elements are LED, so that's certainly quite nice. And then speaking of this lower fascia, because we have the M50 model, that's really going to make things very aggressive. And as you can see, we also have a quad exhaust setup. Now, one thing I do want to point out is it's no longer an active exhaust like the previous generation, but let's go ahead and take a listen. Moving on to the wheels, you've got a lot of choices between 19 and 21 inches. We have the optional 21-inch alloy wheel. These look fantastic, I think, overall with the contrast design and the M elements. Also, you notice behind there, we've got a prominent red brake caliper. That's because the M Sport Professional package gives you the ability to pick between a red or a blue brake caliper for a little bit of a color pop. Moving up here to our mirrors, we've got a gloss black finish on board and that special M design. These mirrors have all the features, including auto dimming and power folding. Now at the side, the overall vehicle length is 187 inches for the X3, which is about an inch bigger than what the previous generation was. As far as design touches, we also have blacked out window treatment as well as a blacked out roof rail up here at the top. I did also forget to mention the tow rating earlier. So your tow rating comes in at 4,850 pounds for the M50 model or 4,000 pounds for the 30 models. Now, when it comes to your safety systems, BMW is going to give you 3 out of 4 active safety features as standard equipment on the X3. If you want all of them, you will have to go for the Driver's Assistance Professional package, which will further throw in adaptive cruise control with a traffic jam assist. But guys, there is a lot to talk about when it comes to the interior and our impressions after living with it this week. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
And if you want to know about all the latest and greatest rides, then make sure to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the newest cars. All right, now let's move to the inside. First, here's our key fob. Of course, you've got a new BMW design here, standard smart entry system. We also have available remote start. And as walk up to the vehicle, the mirrors will go ahead and fold out and the car will unlock since it has walk-away auto lock and unlock. And then let's check out the interior. As you can see, as the first peek inside, you kind of get a little light show and some animations on the screen. And before we get into all the details of this new type of cabin design for the BMW brand, let's talk about the seats. So standard is going to be Vengaza. That is a leatherette. That is actually what we have on today's example. So we've got kind of the black leatherette over most of the surfaces, but we also have some suede accents, including up here on the headrest. As we always say, this is really, really good faux leather. The quality is fantastic. The seats are really comfortable. The bolsters, super nice. We've had no complaints about this, but if you want real leather, you can get that optionally. The seats themselves have plenty of adjustments through here. You can adjust the bolsters. You can also manually move the thigh extension, and we have memory seats up here on the door trim. Let's go ahead and climb inside. As I climb inside here, let's talk about the overall cabin experience in terms of material quality. Now, a lot has been said in the past about some of the material selections in this interior versus the previous generation. After living with it for a week, we can certainly confirm in many ways it is less nice than the previous generation. And you'll notice just kind of with the overall material selections, things where you used to have wood on the door trim, we have just leatherette and piano black plastic through here. We have some kind of matte finish plastic up here on the door trim. You have a lot of lighting throughout. The top part of the dash, this has some leatherette with the stitching details running through there. And then more of the lighting kind of runs all around the vehicle. This is the place where you can customize your genuine material. So we've got the aluminum on the M50 model. You can also get wood if you prefer. But let's go ahead and fire it up with the push button start. And let's jump into some individual details and our impressions. We'll begin with the gauge cluster. As always, it's got the 12.3-inch BMW digital gauge cluster like many of the other models. It's got a ton of different designs that you can choose from. And it also comes with the premium package, at least, a very nice head-up display. Both of these features we're super impressed by. Like, again, they have just lots of ways you can reconfigure them and give yourself all types of information up there. Now, as we move back to the steering wheel, we've got a nice looking BMW design. This is kind of their newest look. Since we have the M50, we have the sportier flat bottom M steering wheel, with nice paddle shifters on the back. Some of your buttons over here are touch sensitive, although I will say that something simple like skipping a song for whatever reason is not just a button on here. You have to kind of work your way through the head-up display menu. The steering wheel, it's manual tilt and telescoping, and heating is available. Now, let's talk about interior storage. This is a big step up from the previous generation. They definitely focus more on making this utilitarian. And inside the center console, you're going to find our donuts, of course, because at Car Confections, we do the donut test and check the volume of the console. If it's 9 donuts inside, which isn't quite a dozen, but not really expected to hit a dozen in this segment of compact luxury SUV. Now, up in front of that, we now have this big kind of open pit, basically, with our 2 prominent and deep cup holders. This side's a wireless phone charging pad as standard equipment. You have a little bit more storage over there with your 2 USB-C connections. No cover for this though. As we move back to the shifter, we have the kind of nub design shifter we've seen proliferate across BMW's lineup. Press back for drive. Again, you have those paddle shifters on the steering wheel. And most models will come with this 360-degree camera system. It's a good quality to the camera system. You also can go into the 3D view as well if you want to kind of spin around the vehicle and see it from different perspectives. And then just press the P right there for park. You have an electronic parking brake and auto brake hold. Now, in this area, you'll notice we've got kind of a control knob here for the infotainment system. I do want to point out this is the last new BMW that's going to launch with a control knob instead of just being touchscreen exclusive. And you also have a physical volume knob right here for the audio system. So this is the 16-speaker Harman Kardon sound system, and we'll go ahead and give it a sample now. So as much as I want to give you guys a nice sound sample, our specific unit this week has suffered from a glitch where it plays 2 audio sources simultaneously, and you cannot get the radio off, so that's why that just sounded like a bunch of gibberish. However, at certain points, we have been able to actually listen to our music, and when we were listening to our music, we were kind of disappointed by the audio system. Compared to even the previous generation, for some reason it just kind of sounds like the quality's a little off. I think there might be the positioning of the speakers just don't surround you quite the same way as in other BMW products. All right, let's move on to the screen. So we've got the 14.9-inch screen. This has, of course, the newest version of the iDrive system. First of all, I'll talk about the climate controls. So right here is where you will adjust your climate up and down. You can tap on that to see your heated and ventilated seats. Heated seats are standard equipment, and then your ventilated seats are available. Additional climate functions are inside of that display right there. Now you might have noticed that the vents have a very minimalist design. You don't actually adjust them inside of the screen like you do on some products, but instead you use these rollers that are underneath of the vents. That's how you kind of adjust it. We found this to be difficult to use while driving, especially this one over here on the left-hand side, because you can't see where it is at all. You kind of just have to feel around until you find the right spot. Definitely would have just been better if they let you grab the vent, and it definitely confused our passengers as well. Now, as far as the rest of the infotainment system, besides for that glitch we were having, it works really well. It has wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. This is our built-in navigation system. And there's a lot of different settings you can get into when it comes to the ambient lighting. Again, we're going to talk a lot about that in our dedicated night review. Up top, we've got an auto-dimming mirror with HomeLink universal remotes. Go ahead and slide back the sunshade for the panoramic sunroof. So I'm glad that this has a real sunshade. However, be aware this does not open up. So it's now one big seamless piece of glass, but because of that, it can no longer open up like in the previous generation.
And let's talk about the rear seat area of the new X3. So we had several people back here this week, and I'm happy to tell you that the rear seat is quite spacious for this segment. We're sitting at about 36 inches of legroom and about 38 inches of headroom. I think the headroom is really the thing that stands out. It has a little bit of a taller design than the previous generation, so that gives you a little bit more space. The legroom is very much on par with its competition as well as the previous generation. And of course, we brought along the official Car Confections ruler. The reason we did that is so we can see how much knee room you can expect. This seat is adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8", I'm 5'9", and we are looking at a very solid 7 inches of knee room. My feet can easily slide up underneath of the seat, and these seats are pretty comfortable back here in the rear. The middle one is a little bit on the hard side, and I do want to point out these seats do not recline, so it's just going to be a fixed position rear seat. If we fold down the center armrest, we have cup holders inside. And then let's discuss some of your features. So we have that same kind of weird vent controls back here for the rear as well. You can also option on to get your own climate controls back here, which would make it a 3-zone setup instead of a 2-zone setup. I think it's only a couple $100, so I would probably option for that. And then you have 2 USB-C ports down below. You also have these little slots here that you can add different attachments to. Heated rear seats are an available option, as well as rear sunshades. And then as far as the door trim is concerned here in the back, it's going to be, made of a lot of, just kind of plastic materials. As you can see, it is going to be real hard touch plastic where you grab the door, and then you have that plastic door handle as well. One of the good things about it, though, is the fact that you have a ton of door storage. They've really kind of hollowed things out to give you a ton of space so you can easily fit in bottles like this. Now walking up to the cargo area, of course, we have a hands-free power trunk, and then let's talk about space. So one of the great things about this new generation is the fact that they have improved the overall space. So we're sitting at 31 cubic feet of space behind the second row of seats and a maximum of around 67 cubic feet. Now that's going to be one of the very largest in terms of cargo capacity in this entire segment. And speaking of this segment, if you are cross-shopping with other vehicles in the compact luxury space, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. Now the reason you do that is because we've gone through all of the options and ranked them in the individual categories that might matter more or less to you. Things like cargo space, interior technology, powertrain, luxury features, and amenities. All of that is detailed for you. So if you want to make an informed buying decision, certainly use our tool at carconfections.com/vehicle rankings to do that. Now back to this model, the seats fold 40-20-40 split, which is pretty nice. There are not any handles to do it from the cargo area though, so I will have to go up and do it from the second row. Now that we've got those seats folded down, as you can see, they do fold pretty flat with the floor. And let's get our cargo length, width, and height figures. It's a Car Confections review after all. We're sitting at 70 inches of cargo length behind Drew's 5'8" driving position. From behind the second row of seats, 36 inches is what you can expect. Overall opening is coming in at 42 inches wide, and then height is it's decent at about 29 inches of height. Let's get our cargo load in as well. That is sitting at about 31 inches. Now underneath of the floor you have a little bit of extra space, and as you can see you do also have a spare tire. Well guys, here we are behind the wheel of the new BMW X3. In this test drive we're going to be discussing quite a lot, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting things like our official Kentucky sound level reading and discussing our real world fuel economy. But first let's start with a hard acceleration.
Very nice. That's above 60 miles per hour. So that's of course why you buy the M50 model, is because you want an X3 with some serious punch, and just like the previous generation, it definitely delivers that. So we've got the, I think we could call it famous B58 powertrain. It's a 3-liter turbocharged inline 6-cylinder. We also have mild hybrid system on board as well. 393 horsepower, 428
pound-feet of torque. Yes.
Lots of torque, lots of power.
Yeah, this thing is very powerful. It was already very powerful before the redesign, and then now for this new generation, they have really upped the power even more. As a matter of fact, the horsepower is up 11, and the torque is up 59 pound-feet of torque. So really impressive numbers. The 0 to 60 is rated at 4.4 seconds on this, and I think it may actually even be faster than that. This thing is very quick. That's one of my very favorite elements about this car, is that overall powertrain experience that you get here with the M50. It really elevates it above the vast majority of the competition.
It's just so smooth as well, and the overall power delivery. We love this.
We love the B58.
Yeah, B58 is great.
Now, for those of you that don't need all the power, you will go for the X330 model. That's a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder. That also has mild hybrid, 255 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. Those are also up over the previous generation. Those are going to be healthy numbers. We've experienced the X330 model. It's certainly fast enough for the vast majority of people. Really no complaints there, and like I said, we have already reviewed that, so if you'd like to check that out, you can find our video as well.
Now, as far as the transmission, this has the 8-speed automatic. This transmission is used in other BMW applications, and it's fantastic. It's really smooth in normal driving. It's smooth when you accelerate hard, and it is fast when you use the paddle shifters.
Yeah. And now that we're on a highway road, let's discuss overall ride quality. I think that's been an area that I have been very impressed with this week, actually. Even despite us having the largest 21-inch wheels on the outside, and this also being the M50, so kind of the sport version, this thing really rides nicely on just a highway portion like this. I can imagine just cruising down the highway for hours on end and really not having no issues whatsoever. I do want to point out that you have the adaptive M suspension on the M50 model, and this is just in the normal drive mode, so it does a great job of having that dual character. You'll see that as we go into the sport mode later on, but really the ride quality is very good. All right, that was a sport mode acceleration. Now, one of the interesting things is that this has iconic sounds, so there's actually a lot of fake noise being pumped into the cabin. We learned this week, so we can kind of toggle that on and off right there. So if we turn that off,
so obviously it still has a nice sound to it because it's a B58, but all of the theatrics and stuff are completely gone. They're basically a soundtrack.
Yeah.
Because this does not have the active exhaust like the previous generation, as Mason discussed on the outside. So it does have a little bit of an artificial sound in a way, but if it bothers you, you can turn it off, of course.
Yeah. And let's go back into the normal drive mode so we can get our sound level reading going 55 miles per hour. Of course, the iconic sounds is turned off, and we have it on fan speed 1. See how quiet it is. 54.1 decibels is what we have settled in at as our sound level reading. We don't have to sit here and guess how it compares. We can go to carconfections.com/sound level readings to see how it falls amongst its other luxury compact SUVs. That does mean while it is a quiet cabin, it's not, quite the quietest option in the segment. The GLC and the Q5 both are a little bit quieter. That being said, I think they've done a pretty good job of insulating this cabin.
Yeah, so that is the sport mode. We have the powertrain in the Sport Plus, the most aggressive mode. And like I was saying, the paddle shifters are extremely responsive, and the shifts are really aggressive. This vehicle has a profound impact when you switch into the sport mode. Really firms up the steering nicely, firms up the chassis so you have good handling. And I think this is really where this vehicle just shines and comes to life, because you can tell it's a BMW when you get it into the sport mode and start having a blast on a back road. And we might as well just go ahead and declare that today's slam dunk, because certainly over the last week, I think that's the place where this vehicle really puts a smile on our face the most.
Yeah. On the airball side of things, what we're going to say is just the overall cabin quality in this X3. I think we're pretty disappointed with some of the materials that they've used and also some of the decisions that they made with some of the ergonomics, like adjusting the fan. It's just a little bit more complicated than need be. And, the previous generation did have nicer materials, that's for sure. And now let's also talk about fuel economy. So when it comes to this vehicle, fuel economy is a very good element for it because we have that mild hybrid system, which by the way has incredibly smooth auto start stop. The 30 model is rated at 29 mpg combined, and the M50 is rated at 27 mpg combined. Those are absolutely phenomenal numbers, especially, here on the 6-cylinder version to be getting nearly, 30 mpg with that much power. What's our real-world fuel economy? So we lived with it this week, as we have stated multiple times, and we drove it about 229 miles. And in that 229 miles of testing, we stayed mostly in the city, so that's something to keep in mind. And of course, it's a fun vehicle, so we did drive it a little bit harder than maybe the average vehicle would be driven. We're sitting at 24 mpg as our average. So I have to say that honestly is fantastic. If you were just kind of cruising down the highway, I'd say you have no problem hitting 30 mpg out of the 6-cylinder X3. And while that is slightly below the EPA estimate of 25 mpg in the city, due to just, things like this, driving around in sport mode, I think that the average person is absolutely going to hit that EPA estimate.
And then to end here, we need to answer the question, do we like it better, the same, or worse after living with it for a week? I believe we're all in agreement that we like it a little bit worse after the week's time. And I think really the best way I could put this is that we all just kind of kept thinking about the previous generation, which was almost perfect. And then this generation steps back in certain key ways, like the interior quality. It just makes me feel like maybe a better bet where you'd still get the same powertrain and all the pleasant experience would be to get a CPO last generation.
And let's discuss pricing for the X3. So like I said at the very beginning, this model starts at around $51,000. This M50 is going to start around $65,000. And as far as this particular model, we have pretty much every option. There are a few other ones that you can add, but after $1,175 destination and all those options, we're sitting at around $74,000 as tested today. Now, if you're looking to buy a BMW X3 or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, as well as things like our monthly payment tool, you can find a link to that in our video description, as well as a pinned comment down below. But buying a vehicle is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's talk about resale and reliability. First up, let's talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, we took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this BMW X3's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 41.19% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 15.3%. Now, it's worth noting that is lower than industry average. However, it is on par with other German luxury makes, such as Mercedes-Benz, Audi, as well as other brands like Cadillac.
Now, we've also done the same for reliability by developing the Combined Reliability Index. This takes into account several trustworthy sources of reliability studies and combines them in a way that gives you a holistic picture. In this regard, BMW is rated just a little bit above the overall industry average for all vehicle makes.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values or our reliability data, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new vehicle is a very big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. Now, when it comes to your warranty, you do have a decent one. It's a 4-year, 50,000-mile basic and powertrain warranty. You do, however, get 3 years and 36,000 miles of complimentary maintenance, which is pretty rare for a German brand. And guys, that's going to wrap up our in-depth 7-day review of the all-new 2025 BMW X3. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, which is the whole reason we made this 7-day review, we'd appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to be a part of our Car Confections family, which we have a lot of fun on this channel, and I promise you won't want to miss out. There's a lot of content. If you're already part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.